Hey, I'm strummerdood or matter. Whatever, I don't know. So in Hotline Miami 2, we transition between scenes and characters as if we were watching a movie on VHS, but rewinding and fast forwarding. Stylistically, it nails the game's 80s aesthetics, but by equating life to a film on tape, it also hints at the narrative's deeper themes.
The game opens by twisting our perception of reality. Our rampage through a house dissolves as a director yells cut. We're in fact playing as actor Martin Brown on the set of a film based on Hotline Miami 1's main character, Jacket. Later, Martin dreams of being on a talk show where the supernatural character Richard tells him of an unpleasant twist ending on the horizon. After a scripted sequence on set, Martin is accidentally shot dead by his co-star. The fiction of the film set warps into the realm of reality. Similar shifts in reality occur with Detective Manny Pardo. While at a crime scene, a film crew briefly flashes on screen. Later, during a surreal nightmare, we literally walk on a set before shooting our way through a police department. When replaying the game, we get a different opening where Richard flips on a projector and watches the story of Hotline Miami 2. He sees the characters as actors playing their roles, and often intervenes into their lives in an attempt to steer them in different directions. The question that arises in Hotline Miami 2 is what sort of film is Richard watching? Structurally, it borrows from Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction. While the director weaves a story out of order, all of the characters revolve around LA's crime boss, Marcellus Wallace. They're also all given opportunities for redemption. Using Jacket's influence, Hotline Miami 2's characters all look for purpose and meaning in their lives. Evan wants to write a book on Jacket's exploits, the son wants to avenge the death of his father at the hands of Jacket, Pardo wants to attain the same level of infamy by becoming the Miami Mutilator. It appears the characters see themselves as the heroes in their own mental biopics. They remind me of Ryan Gosling's character from Drive, as it should since the film is the single greatest influence on the first Hotline Miami. Ryan Gosling described his character as someone who watches too many movies, a child who creates a narrative mythology to fit his life. Near the end of the film, he tosses on the rubber mask from his Hollywood stuntman gig, fully embracing his fantasy. Similarly, the characters in Hotline Miami 2 don masks and see themselves as superheroes. It's funny then that Hotline Miami 2 actively contradicts typical film tropes even while it molds itself as one, going as far as naming its acts after the sequences in Freitag's Pyramid. I mean, despite its psychedelic surreal elements, the first Hotline Miami hits some tried and true action movie beats. Guy joins group of killers, gets girl, loses organization's trust, loses girl, goes independent and takes out the big bad guy, finishes by looking off into the distance. Conversely, in Hotline Miami 2, the fans go to save the damsel, but she tells them off. They just mowed down all her friends, why the hell would she go with them? In the same sense, the story atypically ends abruptly and without much purpose. An American general assassinates Russia's and America's presidents, leading to nuclear holocaust that wipes out the game's cast of characters and probably much of humanity. No happy ending, no rhyme, no reason. It's the twist ending Richard warned us about. Upon restarting the game, he wonders why we've even returned knowing how the story ends. Unlike the first Hotline Miami, multiple playthroughs of the sequel won't quench our thirst for reason and meaning. The biker storyline in the first Hotline Miami, in itself an alternative timeline, cruelly fed into our need for closure. The game looks and feels like a violent 80s arcade shooter, but hints at a deeper meaning. In the end, though, the game's creators appear as janitors to tell us we killed because we enjoy violence. We then receive an achievement that perfectly describes our feelings. That's it. But we can't accept that, can we? So the game includes an eye-straining collectathon to unlock a contrived ending to satiate our thirst. The creators deadpan that it was done to cause a rift between the Americans and the Soviets, the Cold War elements contributing even more to the 80s aesthetics. The secret password hidden in the first game references Bruce Springsteen's Born in the USA, an anti-war song about the poor treatment of Vietnam veterans when they returned home. Purposefully ironic, the song is largely misunderstood, used as a patriotic rallying cry during Ronald Reagan's conservative bid for re-election. Springsteen characterizes Americans as stubborn optimists, endlessly searching for truth. Granted, Hotline Miami 2 does further explore the political element of the world with segments during a war against the Soviets in Hawaii. Much of the Hotline narrative derives from this time period. Evan working as a photojournalist, Jacket and the omnipresent store clerk serving in the same infantry, and the killer general still just the colonel of said infantry. The night before a suicide mission, the colonel dons the severed face of a cougar and proclaims their sheep to the slaughter, that they have no free will, and killing simply comes naturally. Of course, when the skin of the cougar falls off, he comes back to his senses, fumbling with excuses for his actions. The sequence encapsulates Hotline Miami's gameplay loop during levels and the emotional dichotomy at the heart of the story. We toss on an animal mask, upbeat electronic music blasts through our speakers, and we murder countless thugs in seconds. When the last man is killed, the energetic music cuts out, replaced by an ominous, disturbing drone as we backtrack past all the bodies left lying on the ground. We then take off our mask and re-enter society. After we feed our primal animalistic id, we try to understand why we did it. It's further realized during the final sequence of the game. Tripping from psychedelics, the son sees the fans as they truly are, animals. Unlike the arcade shoot-'em-ups it pays homage to, Hotline Miami is expected to discuss the nature of violence before its audience can say they enjoyed it. I mean, most critically acclaimed shooters today do just that. When something shallow like hatred arrives, people fall over themselves to denounce it. It's a point used by people who compare hatred to Hotline Miami, that the latter actually says something about violence. Such a circumstance is mimicked in Hotline Miami 2, the talk show host from Martin's Dream calling the actor a sellout for doing a slasher flick instead of his presumably less successful drama work. Director David Cronenberg not only faced similar criticism, but actually responded to it with the film Videodrome, which heavily influenced Hotline Miami. The film features a TV show which, upon watching, turns the viewer into an unwitting killing machine who takes orders from VHS tapes inserted into his stomach vagina. That's what it is. I don't know. The movie seems to dramatize the nightmares of TV evangelists who say violent media corrupts people, the main character frequently arguing against such a platform. In the same vein, Hotline Miami 2 dramatizes the nightmares of bloggers who deride shallow, violent entertainment, showing life as a fractured, violent film without a satisfying conclusion or theme. I mean, if the media represents our world as it does in Hotline Miami 2, then it's a world where hatred more accurately depicts reality. Basically the real Miami scene in the documentary Cocaine Cowboys. Hotline Miami 2 is a trashy slasher flick. It posits that violence can't be explained beyond natural animal instinct, but which troubles our human side, which enjoys neatly wrapped up stories with a message. In the novel Slaughterhouse-5, author Kurt Vonnegut is troubled when similarly trying to explain violence in regards to the bombing of thousands in Dresden during World War II. What he settles on is a bird-chirping pooty wheat, since it's as appropriate as anything to explain the pointlessness of a massacre. It's simply impossible to put into words, or pixels for that matter. The story's lead character, Billy Pilgrim, is unstuck in time, sporadically jumping between different time periods in his life. After the war, he happens to be abducted by aliens who tell him things happen for no reason, and only humanity still believes in free will and a meaning of life. It's likely Billy suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder. He can't mentally leave the war, hence the time tripping, and uses the alien story to explain the world to himself. Unlike our entertainment, real violence affects people. Jacket likely suffered from PTSD following a brush with death during the war in Hawaii, compounded with the fact that the man who saved him, Beard, is senselessly blown away when a nuclear bomb consumes San Francisco. Jacket hallucinates Richard and sees Beard in the face of every Miami store clerk. Jacket's life is killing. Because of his clothing and connection to Beard, Richard may be Jacket's more vocal subconscious, someone that sees violence as not only unexplainable, but harmfully addictive. Richard intervenes into the lives of people influenced by Jacket. He tries to convince people like Evan to take advantage of the small modicum of freedom afforded to them by their creators, game designers Dennis Whedon and Jonathan Soderstrom, who again appear in the sequel to assure no bugs or glitches impede our progress towards the apocalypse. The game offers us a choice with Evan: continue writing about Jacket or call his family to mend some wounds. The decision will determine how he spends his last moments, eating with his kids or trying to figure out why a broke man went on a violent killing spree. Like a Greek tragedy, Hotline Miami serves as a cathartic way to explore our more depraved urges. Violence and war is silly and pointless and natural and unexplainable. In a way, our shallow, mindless entertainment reflects this best.